And we are live. My name's JP Berg, and this is Dumb the Wiser, our morning news show, Politics with Peyman and JP. I'm joined by my co-host, Peyman Ascari. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. You?
Very good. So today we're going to be talking about some problems with the American hegemon. Russia, a couple of days ago, said they will no longer be selling oil in the U.S. dollar. China yesterday came out and says they refuse to acknowledge these latest sanctions, where they've always went along with all of these sanctions in the past. So this is quite the incident. They replied with a triple negative, saying these sanctions shall not be recognized, shall not be enforced, shall not be complied with. We have the weaponization of trade, and this Iran war is really showing America's weaknesses. That's our first topic. It's kind of one all-encompassing topic. They're all relevant. And I want to touch on the Honda plant is reportedly halting their construction for their $15 billion EV plant in Ontario, which further hits Canada's auto sector. So I mean, we're in dire straits here in the West, seemingly. So first of all, we'll go on to this China thing. What are your thoughts on this, Peyman?
It's America's no longer like it's losing its position as the sole superpower that it was since '91, and they hinted at this in the NSS document last year. They said they were going to refocus and be a regional superpower in the Western Hemisphere. But I guess the neocons didn't get that memo, and they're full steam ahead in Iran. They figured they could rout China, and they could postpone this eviction of America's superpower status for a while, and it backfired. What interests me is this realization that America guaranteed Pax Americana, the ability to trade around the world so long as you traded in U.S. dollars, and everything seemed to work, and we took it for granted. Now, with America getting hostile and going from a guarantor of trade to guarantors of piracy, like boarding ships in the open seas. Now you have different countries like Russia and China escorting a lot of their trade boats, trade ships with military escorts.
I mean, I think we saw the initial stages of this when we started sanctioning countries, like we're having the reserve currency, and then they would just kind of weaponize that against Russia. It's like that's going to incentivize any up and coming power to not want to utilize U.S. dollars. I think that's where BRICS came from initially.
Right, but before Russia, it was Iran. And sort of after 9/11, I wasn't paying attention to the weaponization of monetary policy. And because, Iran was this crackpot nation of crazy Muslim jihadists. Obviously, we're going to weaponize the monetary system. But then when Biden used it against Russia, I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on?
It's just short-sighted. It's seemingly obvious that it was going to have this negative effect. It makes me wonder if on some end it's like sabotage. But one thing is for certain, the American hegemon is coming to an end. We're entering an era of multipolarity. So it should be interesting.
You know what? I think it's hubris. It was arrogance. Like they after Bretton Woods, after 1945, they built this system again to guarantee trade. And the whole purpose was, America's got the military. We're going to go to a global structure where we can buy and trade globally, and everybody will get rich. Well, principally, the rich will get richer. But then over time, they're like, wait a minute, we have this massive tool. Why don't we use it? We'll use it against Iran. What could go wrong? And then we're going to use it against Russia. What could go wrong? And now they might try to use it against China, and everything will go wrong.
Yeah, well, it's seemingly gone wrong. What it did is it showed everyone their weaknesses, and that's a big problem. We're going to see profound repercussions of this. It's all up to the worst thing in my estimation when I really think about this is like now we have Trump there, who's very egotistical, megalomaniacal, even like. What's his response going to be to this? Is he going to try to push hard and bluff China again? And this could devolve into something just disastrous in no time, depending on the reaction.
Yeah, I mean they're on a collision course in some sort of trade war, this whole invasion of Iran, the purpose was to give America like a stronger bargaining position if you cut off the oil to Iran. Because if you remember, they tried to impose tariffs on China, and China's like, all right, fine, we won't export rare earths. And they rolled back the tariffs. So maybe they're thinking this will give them a leg up. But China, they're not going to just take this lying down. I'm sure they're going to figure out, all right, how do we're going to have to escalate to this point. Like there's no way out of this without escalation.
Yeah, it's all in Trump's hands now, or whomever's pulling the strings, so to speak. It's like you were saying initially, like they released their national defense strategy, and it had a lot of us hopeful. It's like, oh wow, they're going to focus on the Western Hemisphere. They're going to, get out of some of these more dangerous EU situations and kind of pressure the end of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. Like there were a lot of positives. And then all of a sudden, we're just at war with Iran. It was that quick, right? Like, boom, we're at war with Iran, and here we are, and it's threatening everything. So I don't see the logic in that move. I never did.
Yeah, America's in a tough situation because they are what they are because of the vassal states that they protect. So the GCC and Europe, and now they're trying to step away from that. What they want to say is, we want all the benefits of you being vassals, so we sell our products into your markets. But we don't want any of the downside, which means we have to fund the military to protect you. So now Europe is saying that they want to rearm. I don't know how they're going to do it now. They don't even have energy. But the GCC, which does have money, they're probably going to start rearming because they're looking at the US. They're like, man, we just got our asses kicked by Iran and America did nothing. We can't depend on them anymore.
Yeah, it proved conclusively that they can't secure their assets in the region. They can't protect their allies in the region. And that was some of the cracks in the facade right away. And I really think that this has a lot of ramifications that people aren't even considering now. Like, what does a multipolar world look like? There's a lot of people that use the term like it's the end. I don't think it would necessarily be that bad. I think personally there could be benefits to having multiple powers. We'd have to find a way to compromise. If we don't destroy ourselves, it could be advantageous for people.
You know what it's like? It's like, imagine Pangea. So you got this one supercontinent, it's called America, and then Pangea splits into three supercontinents. You got Russia, you got China, and you got America. And now the question is, those little tiny countries in the middle there, like Europe, GCC, to which new continent are they going to drift?
Yeah, the powers are aligning, that's for sure. China is going to, like, imagine like the Philippines, Japan. Like, what are they thinking right now that like they're so far away and so close to China and Chinese influence? I actually read something that Japan is attempting a rearmament, which it would have to. I mean, it's like I said when this first happened. If you're any of these countries in that region that are allied with America, you're probably back channeling to China already, like knowing which way the wind is blowing. And I would say China would be very receptive to that. They understand the game that's occurring. So I mean, it's a dangerous situation for sure. It's not like China is going to take over as, like, China won't be able to impose on the world what America has been imposing for since the fall of the Soviet Union. But we're going to see multipolarity. Russia is going to be a big player. China is going to be a big player. America is going to be a big player, and potentially the EU, whatever they're going to do. They're in the worst shape of all, and which is ironic because that's who our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, is endeavoring to pull us towards, even though we're on another continent.
Yeah, the EU is a disaster. I don't think they can ever get their act together to, if anything, they'll just start fighting amongst themselves. The other issue that I think Russia understands this, but America doesn't, the nuclear non-proliferation treaty. The purpose of that, beyond, nukes are dangerous, we don't want people to have nukes, it gives tremendous power to Russia and America. Like, they are the two main superpowers and they have the most nukes. And with that, those nukes are not their nukes. So if America has 5,000 nukes, that's not 5,000 nukes for America. That's like 1,000 for America, a couple hundred for Turkey, a couple hundred for the GCC, and that they fall under the term they use is their nuclear umbrella. So America is saying, listen, don't get nukes. We will provide our nukes for you. So essentially, they become like a nuclear protectorate of the U.S. But But if America can't protect them, the people they're going to say, you know what? We're going to develop nukes. Japan's mentioned this like a decade ago. Turkey's mentioned this as well. They said if Iran goes nuclear, we're going to go nuclear. And the more the countries go nuclear, the less power America and Russia has. Russia understands this. I think America, the neocons, they just don't care.
Well, you look at all the wars of like in that Gulf region, like you look at Iraq, you look at Afghanistan. It's like they didn't have nukes, and they get taken over. Essentially, they get forced to fall in line and comply with the hegemon. So from their perspective, I mean, having a nuke is a deterrent against that. If you want sovereignty from America, you would have to have that almost. It's no wonder it's sought after.
Yeah, it's kind of like the monetary policy. So as you mentioned, if you try to go after a nuke, they'll take you out. If you try to go off the US dollar, they'll take you out. The difference is, if you get an alternative to the US dollar, they can still take you out. If you get a nuke, they can't take you out anymore because you'll just use it.
So the order is you get a nuke, then you make an alternative to the American dollar.
Yeah, it's too bad Gaddafi didn't learn that lesson.
I was going to say that exact same thing. When you look at all of those things, all of those wars or regime change conflicts, like Libya was one of the most confounding because like everything I've read about Gaddafi, and I'm sure the truth lies somewhere in the middle, but he seemed like a pretty noble, decent guy. I'd go as far as to say noble, like he had lofty ambitions to help his people and stuff. But I mean, that's a good quality in a leader, I think.
I don't really know much about Gaddafi. All I know is that he wrote a book, the little black book, whatever. And I think in that he mentioned that, us Arabs, we need to organize and we need a monetary policy. And probably Hillary read that. She's like, all right, we're going to add him to the list of Clinton side.
Yeah, he wanted like a gold back African dollar. But yeah, it's going to be definitely a new world. A lot of people were surprised to see China come out that firm. Because like I said, China has always complied. You might think of China as being defiant. China is definitely an ambitious up and coming power. But they've always complied. So this is totally unprecedented. It sets a new precedent too. And I think moving forward, this is going to embolden other countries. And America's like, it's seemingly the end of the hegemon. This is a big deal, man.
Yeah, China, everyone says that China wants to replace the US. If we think about this, just logically, the last thing China would want is to be the prime reserve currency, because when you're a prime reserve currency, the value of your currency goes up. Everybody wants it. If the value of your currency goes up, the price of your exports goes up. And China's an export economy. Essentially, they'd be nuking their own industrial base.
It's an excellent point that I never considered.
I can't remember who pointed that out.
No, it's absolutely seemingly accurate, unless they're looking to change. Now that they'll export all their jobs back to the West, and they'll become a finance economy. Then it'll just totally flip.
Yeah, so I guess in hindsight, if you want to help Canada support China, they'll export their jobs here.
There you go. So also, like I'd mentioned initially, the Honda plant, the $15 billion EV plant that was supposed to save Ontario's auto sector, is now officially kibosh. It's done. They cite industry challenges, U.S. tariffs at the top of the list. And I mean, this doesn't merely raise concerns for Canada's auto sector. It's just they have to be in panic mode now. Like, I'm watching Carney and all the moves he's making, and it keeps occurring to me, like, when does our credit limit run out? Like, when is it just like we just can't keep going? It's absurd now. Like, just look at the money to service the debt is astronomical. Like, I don't know how we come out of this.
You can do this forever. So if you have a state sovereign bank like Nazi Germany or Napoleon Bonaparte, and you just print money, a state sovereign bank, when you say you get interest-free loans, you're just printing money, and that's not a problem. The problem is our debt is to private banks. It's to commercial banks. It's to central banks. So that's the issue when you say with the interest on the loan. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the US is acting in a self-interested way, so the tariffs are hurting us. I don't know if this is a concerted effort by the banks to implode every economy in the world. Or I don't know if this is just the central banks. They're getting greedy. They're like, oh my God, look at these dumb Canadians. They'll buy anything. Let's just sell them even more debt. Let's just keep selling them debt until there is somebody standing up.
I think it has to be some type of concerted effort to crash the economies for their whatever's next, whatever their plan is. Central banking, digital currencies, the control grid. But I mean, there's cause and effect, and by continuously printing money, it's inevitably going to lead to like a hyperinflation scenario, and everything's just going to crash. It's going to be like Weimar Republic Germany in the West soon if they continue at the rate we're going. And I mean, we're still throwing it away. It's not like we're printing it and we're actually doing these big national projects. We're not building pipelines. We're not looking to refine any of our natural resources and process them and benefit Canadians. We're still sending money to Ukraine. So I mean, it seems like they're finishing us off. Like it's true, like Carney being this economic hitman in some regard.
Let's play around with that idea of whether Carney knows exactly what he's doing or whether he's just frantically reacting. In Germany, the AfD, their sort of opposition fringe party, outside party, they're polling at I think 28% approval, and Merz is freaking out. When the AfD came out and said they want every single U.S. base shut down and out of Germany, and they thought that this would be unpopular. But then, to their surprise, the sovereigntist element in Germany, they all supported it. So now Merz is freaking out, and he came out and he said, I think Donald Trump got humiliated by Iran. Like he's hinting that he wants to also go in that sovereigntist direction. So Carney must be looking at this. And, he seems like he's cool as a cucumber, but he must be a little bit worried. He's like, if I print money and this doesn't work, this is going to blow up in my face.
Yeah, he's betting the farm or the country in this instance. But that's what I think all of the other powers are doing. They're just watching it to see how it's playing out, and then they're trying to gauge public sentiment. They're trying to gauge what's coming next. And this latest bit of news, like we were saying, it's a big deal too. Russia is now only going to sell their oil in Chinese yuan. That's a big deal. That's like, crushing. And then at the same time, China's coming out and finally pushing back in no uncertain terms too, with the triple negative: shall not be enforced, shall not be complied with, shall not be recognized. So it's almost like a declaration of their end of the trade war. It's just like we're done complying with this, and we're ready for any consequences. Now, America, I think they know this because this is definitely some chess going on, but they know America's in no place to really prevent that. I truly believe it.
Yeah, this is like to go back to the Pangea reference. It's like a tectonic shift. If America doesn't play its cards right, this could really backfire. So China made those statements. Now the question is, are they going to follow through with that? And if America continues down this brinkmanship path, I think they will. Iran, if you remember, they imposed a tax on the Strait of Hormuz, and that tax was in anything other than U.S. dollars, even Bitcoin would work, crypto.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they did that, it put the shipping companies in a bind because they need to pay that tax to get in to stay afloat. But if they do that, they run afoul of U.S. sanctions. So they didn't know what to do. And then China coming in kind of squares that circle. If China says we're not observing the sanctions, well, then the sanctions really don't have any weight.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. It's like all of this blustering and all of this posturing. And this is the effect. And again, what concerns me, it's Trump's hubris. Like Trump's not going to react well to this. He has this image, he has this persona that he's not going to deviate from. Like, I don't expect a measured, reasonable diplomatic response, which is what we need presently. I expect him to just throw it down hard, do some threatening on X, talk about ending civilizations or whatever. It's just hard to imagine we're here, man. We all had so much hope in this administration that they were going to be different, and I think everyone should be shaking their heads because we've been duped.
This Trump strategy of peace through strength, it works when it's coming from a position of power, a position of strength. So when he goes into the Houthis, he's like, we're going to kill them all, and he bombs them for a few weeks, and then he's like, mission accomplished. He pulls out. That kind of works. And when he does this like heightened rhetoric, like when he said these two countries have been fighting for so long, they don't know what the blank they're doing. That works because it's a position of strength and he's not getting involved. Now he's in a position of weakness. He got pulled into this war. The war's not going really well. So that strategy, it doesn't have that same, sticking power anymore.
And his rhetoric is not playing well domestically anymore. Like everyone used to like Trump's brashness and his social media posts because he was standing up against the deep state. He was standing with the people. So it was excusable. But now that he's not, clearly he's part of a vested power interest and he's kind of operating under their control. It doesn't play as well. Every time I see it, I cringe. I can't even read his posts anymore. I used to like this guy. So, I mean, I can't imagine what your hardcore MAGA in America, your MAGA voters are thinking right now. It's shocking.
Alexander Mercouris, he had a guest on yesterday. Everybody go watch his podcast. The man is just very, very, very intelligent. And the guy said the problem with Trump is that he overpromised on the campaign trail. So he made all these promises that he just couldn't keep. Like Epstein's a perfect example. How are you going to release those Epstein files when it implicates every one of your donors? But like he overpromised, and then he gets in, and then not only does he underdeliver, he delivers the opposite of what people wanted, like this war in Iran. So the base is really angry, and that's why his rhetoric not his rhetoric, but his sort of social media style, it doesn't work anymore. Before it was great. Like, we're going to investigate the FBI and we're going to throw them all in jail. I'm like, hell yeah. But now when he says like, I'm Jesus, I'm like, no. Focus on the FBI, man. We want justice.
Yeah, it's like I've been saying, he ran as a repudiation of neoconservatism. He was the man of the people that was going to drain the swamp and repair this broken system, make America great again. And then he got in there and did a 180. It's like you said, he just wasn't delivering on the odd thing. He did the absolute opposite and became the embodiment of neoconservatism. So it's definitely a problem. So that topic I thought would fill up a bit more time.
Can I use that to tie it into one of the other topics, Iran?
Most definitely.
So Russia and America, they've been stuck in this war in Ukraine. It's a proxy war, of America proxy war against Russia. And Putin, who's sort of been the savior of Russia, has been the leader, the sovereign, the head of state. He's faltering lately. He came out. He didn't do a red line when the West sold weapons to Ukraine. So now the West has just got carte blanche to bomb inside Ukraine. He came out and he said, we're never going to win the information war against the U.S. They just have too much money. Along comes Iran, a dumpy little country, backwards Muslim nation with no money. They're living in the desert, and they're winning the information war. If you watch these AI videos that Iran is putting out, they're really funny. And what they're really saying is, little Donald Trump, he's not smart enough to read. So we're going to do Lego videos and explain history to Trump. And he's won, and it's humiliating Putin.
Yeah, it's a big deal. You mentioned that yesterday. You wonder, right? Like Putin's been in power for 30 years now, roughly. And there's a lot of ambitious people underneath him that are very critical. And I've watched, I don't know their names to name them, but there's a lot of people that say the last thing the West needs is for Putin to be replaced. Because like if we get some of these more ambitious leaders underneath Putin, they're running on the premise of just getting rid of Russia's enemies. I could see it in the not so distant future, the potentiality for a EU versus Russia war, just wide open. And I think Putin is the one who's been preventing that. I think any other leader probably would have played it very differently, and there would be a larger conflict now.
Let's put a pin in the war thing. I'm going to address the Putin aspect, somebody else might come replace him. The older generations, so our age to, let's say, 80, they support Russia's approach to diplomacy, like that Lavrov, seasoned diplomat. You put out a statement after every meeting between two heads of state and whatnot, and you do it professionally. America doesn't do that. Iran has also shown that that's just not effective anymore. And I think not only has it harmed Putin, this war in Iran and the way that Iran approached the information war, I think it's completely undermined those diplomats like Alistair Crook, Lavrov, I mentioned, Judge Napolitano, Colonel McGregor. I think this is going to say, listen, guys, the diplomacy thing, it doesn't work when your adversary, the United States, has absolutely no respect for the rule of law, and they're just like killing peace negotiators anyway. So let's do it the way Iran is doing it.
Well, that's what I said when they did that sneak attack on Iran while they were in the middle of negotiations. It's like that's short-term thinking. Like how are any other countries going to ever trust you again after a move like that? So it's really, again, on multiple fronts in multiple ways, we're watching America's influence not just wane, but being made fun of, being ridiculed by countries such as Iran. I watched those Lego videos; they're actually quite funny. So I mean, it's definitely a little sad to see, honestly, but I just think it was an inevitability at this point. The minute he went into Iran, I think this was happening. People like McGregor and Judge Knapp, they kind of warned of this, especially McGregor, saying like America can't go to war with Iran. It's not going to be good. Like laying out exactly some of the inadequacies with the military. Like Trump will say, "Oh, we built the military up in my first term." It's like, no, it's not even where it was in the 70s. So yeah, I think this was like you said, a really big gamble. Maybe it was hubris. Or maybe, again, we're watching something bigger and they're just manipulating the markets and they want the energy crisis. They want the economies to crash, and it's a broader play for humanity.
On Iran, in the 79 revolution, it came in as a Islamic theocracy, and it was hardcore Muslim fundamentalist. And this war has shown us that it is not Muslim in any respect anymore. It's principally a military dictatorship run by the IRGC. The IRGC is like a parallel military wing that's been set up that has its fingers in every industry in the country. They are the deep state. And they've shown that they can, whatever we think of them, I mean, I hope there's a military tribunal and they execute all those guys, but they've shown that they are very effective at governing a country. You took out their core leadership, they replaced them immediately. You start attacking them and they never attack beyond, they only retaliate. They wait for you to attack and then they retaliate in kind. That way they don't lose international support as much as they would if they just indiscriminately started bombing for no reason.
And not just international support, but they have very powerful allies. And just by the nature of geopolitics, China and Russia is very much in a good position to let this continue as long as they can. So they're helping them in any way they can. That's I think that's another aspect of the proxy war. I think as this continues, it's potentially going to be World War III. And when they look back, they'll probably say it started with the Ukrainian-Russia conflict, because it's a proxy war. It's not two independent nations just having a dispute. This is larger forces behind these nations that are kind of precipitating the whole thing.
I mean, that depends who wins the war. Like if the West wins the war, it's not going to start with Ukraine. They'll whitewash all of that. It'll start with, whatever belligerent attack dared attack the West.
Yeah. It's a crazy time, man. Before we go to some questions here, because we're right at it, just because we were mentioning the Alberta separatist movement on the last couple episodes, they're coming out now and they're saying that there's Russian interference with it. Did you read any of these reports?
No, where are you reading this on, like a legitimate news source or X?
On X, but it's links from legitimate news source. I mean, there is no such thing as a legitimate news source anymore. There's just propagandists.
Yeah, the moment the words left my mouth, I realized I made a mistake.
We kind of were saying that you're going to see the dirty tricks come out now. They're going to vilify this. They're saying now it's a Russian movement. It's because of foreign interference. So that's another potential way they'll try to stop it, right? Oh, well, we can't stop this. This is a play from Russia, right? It's just so absurd to me.
I'm worried because the leader of that movement, the APP, is Jeffrey Rath, and he doesn't really have the charisma and the gravitas to respond in a meaningful way to such accusations. I think he's just gonna be like a shrieking banshee.
He actually released it. I think he's pretty good. I'm sure he doesn't play off to an. He's a Albertan through and through. He's very educated though. He made a response to it saying it's absolutely ludicrous. I'm paraphrasing, but it wasn't overly aggressive. I think it played well. And the best way would be not to put too much focus in that. That's ludicrous. Why? The more you defend it, the more guilty you look. I think one poignant response is good enough and just leave it alone. But the reason I brought it up is because this is not the last we're going to see. They're going to do every dirty trick to discredit, vilify, demonize, and shut this down.
Jeffrey Rath should reach out to the IRGC and ask for that guy who made the Lego video subcontract.
That's a good idea. So first and foremost, we have Clown World, very loyal viewer, shared the stream. Thank you very much. And it's a good time for me to ask everyone else if you could please share the stream. It's very helpful. So slow news day for mainstream media talking about Russia interfering in Alberta's independence, even though the BBC posted about it, British state media. That's funny. I didn't see that when I brought it up, but
yeah, well, you mentioned the EU is poising for war with Russia. So any dirt they can get on to make Russia the boogeyman, they'll promote it.
Yeah, I still think they're hopeful to drag America into it. And again, man, I've lost so much faith in Trump. I can't tell what's going on anymore. I really can't. Maybe again, like I said, we're watching a bigger ploy here. When you look at the Carney thing, like the way he helped Carney get elected, even if you could say, oh, it was by mistake and he was playing it up to Trudeau, and then when Carney replaced it, worked to his disadvantage. I don't think that. I think he knew. I think he knows Carney in some end. I seen them whispering once at there was a speech and the mic actually picked it up. And he said, oh, we got President Mark Carney, President of Canada. And Mark Carney was like, it's Prime Minister. And he said, don't worry, Mark, at least I didn't call you governor.
Governor, yeah.
And they were kind of laughing about it. And it's like, man, what's even going on?
Yeah, it's I mean, I've been on the campaign trail, and you don't hate each other as much as people would think. Like, I didn't hate I hate the Liberal Party, but I didn't hate the Liberal candidate, and I actually know his family and everything. But as to whether Trump did it on purpose or if he made a mistake, the CIA told him to back off, I don't know. I mean, we're in speculation territory.
It was very odd to see the way Prince Charles came over and gave those speeches in America, and like just the reception he got. It's I watched a lot of the pro-Trump analysts going on, oh, this is the British Empire acknowledging their defeat and all that. That's a whole lot of hopium in my estimation, but it's definitely peculiar, that's for sure.
Did you see the picture the White House put out? The picture of Trump and Charles, and it said two kings in the White House.
I did see that. Yeah. It's just like, it's still trolling. I used to like it. I liked it when I thought Trump was a good guy. Now it's just like, oh my God. It's just to keep the Trump loyalists, those people that are able to not scrutinize Trump, not ask any questions as to why he's not fulfilling anything and doing the opposite. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of those loyalists. It's just to kind of get those going. So we have Laureen 7215 betting the human farm. Yeah, that's accurate. Canada's a resource/labor colony at this point. So we have Johnny Tightlips, very loyal viewer. I'm still leaning into Carney, truly wants centralization of North America. It's kind of what we were just talking about. What do you think, Peyman?
I mean, this was always the plan when America got its independence. If you remember 54-40 or fight, the the Battle of 1812, the selling of Alaska to America. Like the goal was to take over Canada. And I mean, as long as you have a republic, created under the concept of God and individual liberty, property rights, life, pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness, hell yeah, you can make it a continental country. But that's not what they're doing. They want America, Mexico, and Canada to be one, so that it's more easily they can indebt us and steal our labor.
Yeah, it's a centralizing aspect, right? It's not in the true spirit of the American Republic, which was supposed to be states with states' rights cooperating. The federal government was never intended to be as powerful. Like it's wild how much power that office has gained. And again, it's like we're at some kind of crossroads, man. The way we're doing things, especially in the banking realm, like it's coming to its inevitable end. It's clear that we failed at this point, and the longer we're in denial about it, the worse off we're going to be. We have to start really thinking about the next steps.
Yeah, the banks, they're just a Ponzi scheme. You've touched on this multiple times. It would be like if every night you and I and everybody else in the country, we went to a bar and we just put everything on the tab and we had bought bottles of champagne for the attractive girls at the bar next, the table next to us. And then, 20 years down the road, every single person owes like $1 million. So we just, we clear the tab and we start a new tab system. That's what's going on.
Yeah, some kind of a reset is coming, just out of necessity. There's no way we can continue like this. We'll see hyperinflation. We'll see the economy crash. That's what'll wake Canadians up when it's too late. Canadians will be like, man, why didn't you guys tell us?
This is all your fault, JP. You didn't tell them.
That's right. So what else do we got here? So we have Carly Simon. I like Jeff Rath. I think he's articulate and brutally honest. I personally don't know the man. I follow him on X. I think he follows me as well. I think what he says is very accurate. I find him articulate too. I enjoy the cowboy hat. I think that part's cool.
I don't want him to lose. I'm thinking about whether he's the right guy to make sure that Alberta separates. He was being cross-examined in the National Citizens Inquiry by Sean Buckley, and he just couldn't contain himself, and Sean couldn't control him. He would ramble, he'd talk really fast, he'd cut off Sean, he'd go on tangents, he went over time. He's not very good under pressure. If you watch the interview he did with Bruce Pardy, like he loses his temper. You don't want somebody who's hot-headed up against somebody cool, calculated like Carney.
Well, yeah, if you have that temperament, especially in a debate scenario, you're just led around. If you came to debate me and you're angry, I'm just going to illustrate how absurd that is through the whole thing and just make light of it. Like a talented rhetorician can really utilize that to their advantage. So we have Bush writer. Trump campaigned for Carney every time he said 51st state. Yeah, that's undeniable. But was it out of just total ignorance? Was he still in his mind making this epic troll? Did he not realize that he was helping? I think he must have. He even acknowledged it after the fact.
I'd like to point out when America went into Iran, the belief at the time, not just from Bibi Netanyahu, but the entire diaspora Iranian community was, you drop one bomb in Iran and the entire regime will crumble. So sometimes we give too much credit to the country, the United States. And just because that we're north of the US doesn't mean that they know what's going on here. I don't think they give a damn what goes on in Canada.
Yeah, I don't either. It's like you hear a lot of Americans say that. You Canadians think that like we don't even discuss you. It's not relevant. They're not thinking of that. There's bigger concerns that Americans have, especially American government. With that said, though, it's not in their interest to let Canada become infested with the Chinese Communist Party, which is seemingly what's occurring. So what else do we got here? RB Ham. Trump has been controlled by the Rothschilds since they called him out in the 90s.
Failed.
I personally agree. I agree with that.
And he says since they bailed him out.
Since they bailed him out, yes. The Antarctic Treaty by the COVID PSYOP proves we're already in a one world system. So what are your thoughts on that, Payman?
The Rothschild thing, yes, the Rothschild banking system bailed him out. I mean, maybe that they control him, but that's not definitive. I mean, they bail out a lot of people. The system in a whole, I agree, is designed to groom people. JP, you can speak to this whole Quigley Rhodes Scholarship thing. Like Clinton was groomed. Maybe they groomed
Obama.
I don't like the word grooming, but the vetting. Like they vet them and they curate them and they prepare them for politics.
I think so too. And then they utilize them as proxies. Essentially, we have puppets, and there's a plutocracy or a supranational network above the government, and they use these proxies to implement the policies that benefit them. Again, to say the Rothschilds, it's the system. Are the Rothschilds the biggest player in it, or are they a front? Because you hear a lot of people say there's bigger names beyond that, and the Rothschilds are a front name, like the Warburgs are a big name. You can take this all the way back to like Venetian banking dynasties when you get into the conspiracy realms with it. But I think clearly the system that's running the West is very much in control of Trump.
Can I turn the tables and sort of ask you an interview question?
You can do whatever you want, Payman.
What is your view on the two different types of thinking, from Plato to Hamilton to FDR, like people that support that more authoritarian philosopher king's approach, as opposed to like Aristotle, Jefferson, and I don't know, Coolidge or Reagan? Like, where do you land on that?
It's a good question, because my views are in the process of being changed, and maybe it's relative. I'm biased because of the hard times I'm seeing and the inability for the electorate to actually grasp concepts. I think the whole universal suffrage aspect of democracy is a bug. It's not a feature. I think, especially when they can control education. I would have loved to have seen the American experiment work where it wasn't monopolized and controlled by the banking sector. Like if 1913 didn't happen the way it did, and we were able to augment, instead of the Prussian education model that's just making obedient serfs, we had education that was teaching people economics and critical thinking. I'm still not firm on either side of that, because like I said, it's a big deviation, but I think the philosopher king's approach, the Plato's Republic, I think is probably the best. A return to some semblance of empire. Now, that's not where people entirely lose their agency. That's like there's mechanisms to overthrow an emperor, just as there is to overthrow a monarch, right? Like how much, like when we're in this democratic system, like in Canada, for instance, my vote, where I put in a lot of time and effort into understanding the complexity of what we have to deal with, my vote is totally outplayed by the ignorant masses, right? So it's a complicated issue, man, for sure. It's something I've been wrestling with personally.
Yeah, I'm going to put the question to Matthew Ehret. I'm having him on Monday.
Nice. Yeah, he would definitely. He's Hamiltonian economics, right? He's going to go.
Yeah.
He's going with Hamilton National Bank, and that's intriguing too. Like I had a conversation with Dr. Oliver Haydorn and Andre Maloche last night regarding Douglas social credit, not to be confused with Chinese social credit, which is antithetical, but like that's immensely intriguing. Like these are the kind of conversations I want to have, these pragmatic, true reformation type solutions, because that's what we need. A Band-Aid's not, we're not going to be able to print our way out of debt and build national infrastructure and just everything's going to be okay. That's why Mark Carney's qualifying everything with, in this more dangerous and divided world, they're signaling to you psychologically that it's going to get hard. Prepare. And I don't think there's any preparation for it. I think it's going to fall, and then we're going to see some semblance of a reformation. So we'll go another question. We have Alice Not Woke. Hi, guys. Since I get up early and watched your show twice, my dog is now making me get out of bed at 6 a.m. every day. It's a good thing, man. The early bird gets the worm, as they say. I like to start. I prefer the mornings to the late nights, so I get up early.
You're welcome, Alice. We're adding structure to your life.
That's right. This is a good thing. So we have another question here. Carney worked for Goldman Sachs for 13 years. Carney moved to Brookfield to the States. Carney launched his campaign in the States, elbows up, and started in the States. And everyone cries about China interference. Interesting take. What are your thoughts, Peyman?
Yeah, that whole Brookfield thing is a bit of a, it's like a cloud hanging over Carney, but his supporters don't want to look at it. I'm just like, everything he's a billionaire. He's not paying taxes. He's offshoring his accounts, and all of his interests are in the US. Like, why are you following this guy?
I'm surprised that Canadians aren't in the streets already for the way this majority government went down. Like, he has no democratic mandate to lead. He took, like, this was a consequential election where districts that voted in a conservative voted in, it was even less that they were voting for a conservative, they were not voting for the Liberals. It's like I said, they could have ran a toaster in Pierre Poilievre's position, and I think it would have done just as well, because people were, it was a lack of support for the Liberals. So then during that climate, this guy, through backroom deals far from public scrutiny, convinces 5 MPs, 4 from the Conservatives, 1 from the NDP, to cross the aisle and join his party, giving him a majority, which is unprecedented in Canadian political history. Like, that's a dictatorship. It's an autocratic move. Like, he has no democratic mandate to lead. That's enough to get people in the streets. And then when you look at the bills that he's implementing, they change fundamental aspects of what we always thought being a Canadian meant. We're losing freedoms. It's shocking, man. Every day I'm wondering, like, when are Canadians going to get in the streets at this point?
Yeah, I just want to share my thoughts. I think you and we might be making a mistake where we think we're looking at the actions of Carney and we're saying it's wrong for this reason or that reason. The average Joe, they vote based on whether they can continue doing what they're doing. They want to be able to drive to work, or take a bus to work, or walk to work, or, walk their kid to school. And they look at the parties, whatever the party does, even if the party illegally instituted a dictatorship, I don't think they care, as long as they can keep doing those things. I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, I do. And we get to this eventual end a lot. And that's what needs to happen. And something needs to take them out of their comfort zone. Something needs to crash to the extent that their lives aren't livable anymore. Like, something dramatic has changed, and that's going to necessitate them becoming more informed, potentially.
Let me put it in a different way. These floor crossings, how does that negatively impact some 27-year-old woman's ability to buy a pumpkin spice latte?
Mm-hmm.
So it comes down to.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's for those type of voters, those low resolution or low information voters, tragically low information, it won't be until they're at a pumpkin spice lattes. They go to the grocery store and there's no milk that day. You know what I mean? Like, there's shortages, food shortages, hyperinflation. That's when I think that and only that will make these people pay attention. That's how detached they are.
Yeah.
So let's see what else we have for questions. Another one from Carly Simon. I agree, JP. What is wrong with people? Are they just burying their heads in the sand? Well, they're burying their heads in a pumpkin spice latte. That's the problem.
Yeah, they're not paying attention. I was talking to my father's accountant, and in talking to him, he seemed very intelligent. I said, when you go into an election, it's not about what are the root causes. Let's figure out what's wrong with society and how we remedy it. Is, how are you going to spend my money? How are you going to throw my money at the problem? And he turned around and he said, yes, and nobody ever asks where that money is coming from. That same gentleman, I think when it comes to election time, I think he just votes willy-nilly without actually spending several hours every single day investigating these things.
And this is an educated professional. So, like, considering that's you're probably right. That's what democracy gets us. A massive low information population of zombie voters that can be manipulated very easily psychologically with some well-timed propaganda. We don't have an electorate of critical thinkers that are going to scrutinize our public servants. We have people that just defect to one team. I'm on this team. I'm on the blue team. Fuck the red team. It's so low resolution, man. It reminds me of sports teams. Like they're sports teams fans. They won't scrutinize their own guy because you don't do that anymore, which was always the most important feature of being a party member, was to hold your party leader to account. Now they war with each other, and even political commentary is going that way. You don't have impartiality anymore. They're normalizing a Mario Zelaya or a Yasmin, whatever her name is. You know who I mean? And like they're totally for their guy. They only ever criticize the other team, and they're not being impartial, and they're not looking to educate or inform the electorate. They're just looking to culture war, grift, and push the blue team. And that's normal. They're considered journalists now, which is just wild to me, man. Like that's not journalism. That's propagandists.
I was talking to Jeff Sandys. He's a friend of mine. He's a journalist for Epic Times. And he said, back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you're at the bar with your friend and you say, here's the government institute a policy. You say, this is why I like the policy, and here are the reasons I agree with it. And your other friend would say, no, I don't like it, and here are the reasons. And, you take a sip of your beer. Today, if that same conversation happened, he goes, I turn around and say, I F you. And then you turn around, you say, well, F you too. And then you'd go and you'd find new friends. And COVID really showed us that this kicked into high gear. Like it got to the point where your political views act as a filter of who you can and can't hang out with.
Yeah, and it's such a climate that just fuels that division. It's like I've been saying a lot, when people on the right, they think of the left, they think of the worst example. They think of this like naive university student with blue hair that wants to rant about colonialism and hates white people and Christians. And like it's the same thing when these moderate people on the left, people that lean slightly left, when they think of the right, they think of ethno-nationalism, they think of fascism. It's like we're being pushed to the extremes where now we're communists and fascists again. And I just think we're all debt-ridden wage serfs is how I see it. And I think we have to somehow find a way to look past those tribal differences, stop looking at each other as the outgroup, and most importantly, stop looking at each other as the causation for our problems, because it's not. It's the institutions. The institutions have been subverted, and the bankers run the West. That's the best way I could put it.
No, it's well put.
So we got one more comment from Clown World, and we're towards the end here. Education and intelligence are two different things. That's undeniable. And education is indoctrination, essentially. Modern education.
Exactly. And she's right. And I know what Clown World means. Another way you could phrase it is education and schooling are two different things, because people are schooled now, but they're not really educated on life.
Absolutely. And a lot of these so-called educated people, like a lot of these people coming out with a degree in the humanities, they're detached from reality. They like to think that they know the science, but like, I'm a working class man. I could dissect their arguments. I could just decimate them, and I'm happy to do it. If anyone wants to set up a debate that wants to argue about that stuff, I just think it's crazy that we didn't only not make them intelligent, we kind of locked them into a deficient worldview. And we bolstered it by giving them this degree, so they have even more confidence and certitude in their ridiculous positions. So it's something else to observe.
It's not even it's not just that it's education, it's specialization. So like a plumber, it's a specialty. Bricklayer is a specialty. A programmer is a specialty. A degree in women's studies or transgender phenomenon, it's a specialty. It's a special flavor, but it's a specialty. It's not education. Like, what does it mean to be good? Why should we not harm other people?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it's predicated on some like really bad philosophy. This social constructivism, like gender's not a biological feature. It's a social construct. It can, in actuality, be interpreted any way the individual wants. It's like these ideas are so ludicrous that you have to dismiss them with logic right away. But they didn't. They made branches of what they're calling science around them, and that's why we have gender studies and all of these radical activists that have it's incongruous with reality, their view. So it's a big problem. So quick mentions here. Schooling is ignorantization. Never heard that word before, but
Ignorization, I guess. Our audience is starting to make up words, expecting us to be
I
able to
think
read
so.
them.
I think so. I'm always hesitant to say, is that a word? We have one last one here. We'll end on this. That was the threat of Charlie Kirk, who went from learning institutions to openly debate untouchable subjects. Yeah, potentially. I mean, I don't know that it was the left that got Charlie Kirk for his expert debating. Charlie Kirk was also had an evolving position on Israel and was in the process of leaving the pro-Israel cause. So it's worth mentioning. We'll put it that way and leave it there.
Damn you, JT. You son of a bitch.
Little supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That's
I'm
a
not even gonna
classic.
try that. Yeah.
You gotta love that. All right. With that said, Peyman, do you have any parting words?
I have a inlayterms.substack.com. I'm going to be doing an episode with Matthew Arrett on Monday, and I'm trying my best to get Elizabeth Nixon on. I want to press her on her new book, Eco-Fascist.
Awesome. And I will let everyone know Peyman and I are doing this show Monday through Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern. We want to make it a standard. So please be sure to share it and send it to anyone you think might enjoy this type of content. Cheers, guys.